It was a lavish evening in the kingdom of Lusmoria, where the royal court was alive with music, laughter, and the finest of all things wealth could buy. The Duchess Margareta, a figure of power and grace, entered the ballroom, disguised as a mere servant. She had come to meet her son's fiancée, Lady Cassandra, who was seated proudly on a golden chair, the room's attention on her. When Lady Cassandra caught sight of the Duchess, her expression turned cold because she was not expecting to see a maid in dirty outfits, and she was provoked. Lady Cassandra stood from her golden chair, walked close to the Duchess disguised as a maid in dirty outfits, and with a wave of her hand, she slapped the Duchess across the face, mocking her. The sound echoed through the ballroom, leaving the room stunned. Then, as the chaos subsided, Duke Alistair, the Duchess's son, entered the room. His eyes locked onto his mother, who was now humiliated without his knowledge. He dropped to one knee before her, kissed her hand, and bowed. The ballroom was left in cold silence. The bride-to-be and the other nobles were dumbfounded. The woman they had humiliated was no ordinary servant. She was a duchess, deserving every ounce of respect. After Cassandra discovered she had slapped the Duchess, her future mother-in-law, she froze, her mouth hanging open in shock. "What will I do to conceal this?" she asked herself, panic rising within her. She sneaked over to the Duchess, still dressed in her ill-fitting maid's outfit. With sarcasm dripping from her voice, she said, "Please, don't tell the Duke. I had no idea you were my future mother-in-law." The Duchess smiled knowingly, her eyes filled with quiet amusement. She could see the woman's true nature now, the cruelty, the arrogance, and the desire to hide her wrongdoings. Deep down, the Duchess knew that someone like her had no place near her son as a wife. The woman's actions had sealed her fate. "Please, can I ask for a favor? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel. Your support means a lot and helps us bring you more exciting and heartfelt stories. Thank you. Now, let's dive into the story. Meanwhile, somewhere not far from the kingdom, just a few hours' drive away, a girl named Isabella had been raised in the shadow of her cruel uncle, Lord Varick, who had masterminded the death of her parents. They had died in a tragic accident, a tragedy that had been no accident at all. Lord Varick had orchestrated the deaths of Isabella's parents to seize their fortune. He knew that they were traveling late at night to tend to an emergency. Disguised as a madman, he hid behind a tree along the road. When the car approached, he dashed into the road, and the driver, unable to stop in time, swerved off the road, causing the car to flip and catch fire. Isabella's inheritance had been stolen, and she was left in the hands of the very man who killed her parents. Despite her noble heritage, Isabella had been forced to live as a servant under her uncle's oppressive rule. Yet, she was the most beautiful woman in the kingdom, hidden away from the world. On that night, as the Duchess stewed over how to repay Cassandra for her cruelty, particularly the slap she had endured, she resolved to search for the most noble and humble girl in the kingdom to marry her son. The Duchess hired a private investigator to comb the kingdom and find a maid worthy of becoming her son's bride. The investigator uncovered a shocking truth. A particular maid, hidden from the public eye, lived in isolation. Using their skills, the investigator discovered Isabella, who hailed from the kingdom of Drisca, a royal family long believed to be lost. The investigation also revealed damning evidence. Lord Varick, Isabella's uncle, had orchestrated the deaths of her parents and stolen their fortune. Records showed forged signatures, altered property deeds, and the cruelty Isabella endured, forced to stay indoors, doing all the housework while her cousins lived as spoiled brats. A few days later, Duchess Margaretha, moved by the revealed Isabella's plight by the investigator, decided to intervene. Disguised as a lowly servant, she ventured to the outskirts of Lusmoria. Standing near a tree with a heavy sack, she pretended to need assistance, as she was told Isabella usually visited the local market on this particular day every week to shop for groceries. Isabella, always kind and compassionate, noticed the servant and approached her. Without hesitation, she offered to carry some of the load. After a brief conversation, the Duchess revealed her true identity, but asked Isabella to keep it a secret. Astonished, Isabella learned that she had been helping the Duchess all along. Margaretha confirmed Isabella's true potential. Isabella's royal lineage remained a secret, carefully hidden from all but a few. But as the grand royal ball approached, Duchess Margaretha knew the Duke had grown weary of his engagement to Lady Cassandra. The time had come for Isabella's true identity to be revealed. The Duchess secretly arranged for Isabella to attend the ball by tipping off the guard at Isabella's estate, ensuring it remained a secret. The Duchess ensured Isabella was dressed in exquisite, luxurious royal attire. Isabella appeared, stealing the night with her beauty, adorned in carefully designed attire that made her look like a princess. Upon arrival, Isabella was moved by the music in the background and stepped onto the dance floor, eager to dance her sorrows away and honor the memory of her late parents, who had taught her how to dance beautifully. Her movements were a perfect, flawless rendition of a ballerina's steps, a dance the Duke had adored as a child. As she spun gracefully, his eyes locked onto her, and memories of his youth flooded his mind. The Duke, filled with excitement and nostalgia, stepped forward. "Please," he whispered, "how did you learn to dance like this? I have never seen anyone dance this way. I am truly elated and happy to have witnessed this day." "Please, what is your name?" Isabella replied, telling him her name. The Duke asked, "May I join you to remember my youthful days?" He reached out for Isabella's hand. Shy and innocent, she hesitated, her face flushed. She was a virgin, untouched and pure, but something about the Duke made her feel safe. She smiled softly and nodded. As they danced, the room was transfixed. Their movements were a perfect blend of grace and passion. The Duke's heart raced with excitement. He had never seen anything like it before. He knew, in that moment, that fate had brought them together, and he deeply felt that something special was unfolding. As Isabella's dance came to a breathtaking end, the Duke, once lost in the shallow dramas of Lady Cassandra, was now filled with an undeniable certainty. His heart was no longer with her. All it had taken was one look at Isabella, one flawless, perfect dance, and the Duke realized he had never truly loved Lady Cassandra. From her seat, Lady Cassandra watched with a venomous gaze. Her fists clenched as she saw the Duke captivated by Isabella's beauty, her heart burning with rage. How could he turn his attention to this girl, Cassandra thought. The Duke had always been hers. She had fought for his attention, fawned over him, and played her part perfectly. Isabella, in her humble attire and innocence, was nothing more than an obstacle to the life she had planned. In a moment of pure malice, Cassandra pushed through the crowd, her eyes fixed on Isabella. As she made her way toward the dance floor, she shoved Isabella from behind, hoping to send her crashing to the ground. But before Isabella could fall, the Duke's strong arms were around her, catching her with ease. He pulled her upright, his eyes blazing with anger. He turned to Cassandra, his jaw clenched. "Careful," the Duke warned coldly. Cassandra's hands tightened into fists, but she held back, a bitter smile curling on her lips. Suddenly, the royal guards, who had been standing at attention near the Duchess, stepped forward. One of them addressed the room in a serious tone. "There is something very important that the royal guests need to know." The room went quiet, curiosity building among the guests. Without hesitation, Duchess Margaretha, who had been watching the scene unfold quietly, snapped her fingers. The gesture was swift and commanding. "Play the video, as I have instructed," she said firmly. The guards moved with precision, activating the royal screen. A shocking video appeared before all the guests. It was of Lady Cassandra, in all her arrogance, slapping Duchess Margaretha during the previous ballroom event. The video captured the act in crystal clear detail, revealing Cassandra's cruelty and lack of decorum. The room fell into stunned silence as the guests watched in disbelief. The Duke, horrified by the evidence, felt his anger surge within him. He was no longer the man deceived by her charms. His feelings for Lady Cassandra evaporated in an instant, and in that moment he realized the woman he had once planned to marry was nothing more than a cruel, selfish woman. His heart now belonged to someone else, someone pure, someone worthy. Lady Cassandra's face drained of color as the video played. The smirk she had once worn vanished, replaced by shock. She had always prided herself on her control, but now, watching her cruelty exposed for all to see, she realized her carefully constructed world was falling apart. Without hesitation, the Duke called for an immediate confrontation. He publicly ended his engagement with Lady Cassandra. "I cannot marry a woman who shows no respect for others, no compassion for those around her," he declared, his voice resonating with authority and disgust. Lady Cassandra's face contorted with disbelief and anger. She was not used to being rejected, let alone humiliated in such a way, but the Duke's resolve was unwavering. "You are no longer fit to be in my presence," he continued, turning his back on her. Desperation flooded Lady Cassandra's eyes as she collapsed to her knees, her voice cracking with pleading. "Please, my Duke, I beg of you, don't cast me away like this. I'll change. I'll become the woman you deserve." Her voice cracked with emotion, but it was too late. The Duke turned to the guards. "Take her away. She is banished from this kingdom, never to return," he ordered. The guards stepped forward, and Lady Cassandra was led out of the ballroom, her pleas echoing through the halls. Isabella watched, her heart heavy but resolute. Lady Cassandra had made her choice, and now she would face the consequences of her actions. After the dramatic fall of Lady Cassandra, the focus shifted to Lord Varick, Isabella's uncle, the mastermind behind the tragic deaths of her parents and the theft of their fortune. The private investigator hired by the Duchess had uncovered the truth, and the entire kingdom knew the story now. Lord Varick, caught in his lies, had nowhere to hide. A royal tribunal was set up, and Lord Varick was arrested. He stood before the court, his face pale and terrified as the evidence piled against him. Documents showing forged signatures, accounts of his cruel abuse towards Isabella, and his direct involvement in orchestrating the accident that killed her parents. The weight of his crimes was undeniable. The judge, in front of the entire kingdom, declared, "Lord Varick, you are guilty of murder, theft, and the abuse of your own niece. You have betrayed the very blood that runs through your veins. The punishment for your actions is life imprisonment. All stolen fortunes must be returned to the rightful heir, Isabella." Isabella stood in the court, her face filled with determination and strength. For the first time, she felt the weight of justice lift from her shoulders. She had long suspected her uncle's hand in her parents' deaths, but the truth had always been elusive. Now, seeing him stand trial, she knew, without a doubt, that justice was being served. But the punishment didn't end there. Lord Varric's wife and daughters were also arrested for their complicity in his crimes. They had aided him in the abuse and the theft, and they too were sentenced. The entire family was disgraced and banished from the kingdom. Isabella, originally from the neighboring kingdom of Driska, had long believed she died. Lord Varric, her cruel uncle, had meticulously crafted a lie, concealing the truth of her survival. After orchestrating the fatal accident that claimed her parents' lives, he spread the rumor that Isabella had perished alongside them in the crash. The kingdom, devastated by the loss of the royal family, had no reason to question it. Isabella's rightful bloodline, once thought to have ended in that tragic accident, was effectively erased from history. But what the kingdom did not know was that Lord Varric had manipulated everything. If you are enjoying the story so far, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel. Your support means a lot and helps us bring you more exciting and heartfelt stories. Thank you. Back to the story. Lord Varric's ambitions went far beyond simple greed. His desire was driven by pure malice and envy. He was never interested in the throne of Driska, but in the fortune and wealth his brother had built. The royal bloodline was nothing more than an obstacle to him, and he removed it with cruel efficiency. Meanwhile, Duchess Margaretha, always with a heart full of compassion, had never forgotten Isabella. From the moment she met her as a servant in the ballroom, the Duchess knew there was something extraordinary about the young woman. As their bond deepened, the Duchess became more determined to help Isabella reclaim what was rightfully hers. A few months ago, upon discovering Isabella's royal bloodline, the Duchess used her resources and influence to investigate further. Though Lord Varric had covered his tracks, the truth slowly unraveled. With her powerful connections, the Duchess ensured justice for Isabella, knowing it was time for her to claim her rightful place on the throne. Few weeks later, with everything in place, the Duchess Margaretha and Isabella set off for Driska, the kingdom that had long believed its queen was dead. The journey was one of both excitement and apprehension. Isabella, though filled with a sense of purpose, could not help but feel a mix of emotions as she neared her homeland. She had been denied her heritage for so long, and now she was returning to claim what was hers. When they arrived, they were met with awe and disbelief. The royal guards, who had long been loyal to the crown, were stunned to see Isabella, alive, regal, and strong. Word spread quickly through the kingdom. People from all corners of Driska flocked to the palace to see their true queen return. Whispers of, "Isabella is alive," filled the streets. The people were overwhelmed with joy, their hope reignited. The kingdom had waited for this day, and now it had arrived. The celebrations began before the coronation, as Driska's people rejoiced in the return of their queen. The days leading up to Isabella's coronation were filled with anticipation. The streets of Driska's capital city were decorated with vibrant banners, golden flags, and flowers, all symbolizing the return of their true queen. The kingdom, once filled with sorrow, was now alive with excitement. Isabella's coronation was not just a royal event, it was the restoration of their pride, their history, and their future. The people of Driska had long known of the legend of their royal family. They had heard stories passed down of a queen who would one day return to save them. Now they saw her with their own eyes, the woman who would bring prosperity and justice back to their kingdom. The royal palace buzzed with preparations. The Duchess Margaretha and Duke Alistair stood beside Isabella, proud of the woman she had become. They knew that this moment would define the future of Driska. As the crowning ceremony approached, the excitement reached its peak. People gathered in the royal square, anxiously awaiting the moment when Isabella would take her rightful place on the throne. The Duchess, with her maternal affection for Isabella, had been with her every step of the way. She had not only been a guide and protector, but also a motherly figure, ensuring that Isabella's journey was not a lonely one. The day of the coronation arrived, and the kingdom was on its feet. The ceremony was nothing short of magnificent. The Duchess Margaretha, standing beside Isabella, could hardly contain her pride as the crown was placed upon Isabella's head. The kingdom erupted into cheers. The people of Driska, their faith in their monarchy restored, hailed their queen. Isabella, now Queen of Driska, stood tall, her heart full of gratitude and love for those who had helped her reclaim her throne. She looked around at the faces of the people, her people, who had waited for this moment. The Duke Alistair, who had stood by her side through every challenge, smiled with admiration. He knew that the true power of the kingdom lay not in gold or wealth, but in the love and trust of its people. Isabella had earned both. As the celebrations continued, the Duke approached Isabella, his heart full of love and admiration. In the soft music of the background, everything else faded into insignificance. Only the deep bond between them remained. Duke Alistair knelt before Isabella, his eyes never leaving hers. "Isabella," he began, his voice filled with emotion, "you are not only the Queen of Driska, but the queen of my heart. The moment I set my eyes on you that night, I knew deep down that you were the one. When we danced, something magical enveloped me. I fell in love with you instantly, and since then, I have not been myself. Will you marry me?" Isabella, her heart racing, could hardly believe what she was hearing. She had spent so many years in darkness, fighting for survival. But now, standing before the man she loved, she knew that her life had truly come full circle. Tears filled her eyes as she nodded. "Yes, I will," she whispered, her voice trembling with joy. "I fell in love with you too, that night when we danced, and since then, I've dreamed of you and wished for this moment." The crowd erupted into cheers as Isabella and the Duke embraced, their love witnessed by the entire kingdom. The royal wedding was not just a celebration of love, but of a kingdom's rebirth. The palace, adorned with flowers, silk, and gold, reflected the joy. Months later, the couple was blessed with triplets, 3 beautiful children who would one day carry on the legacy of their parents. Isabella, once an orphaned maid, had become a queen, and together with her beloved Duke, they ruled Driska with wisdom, compassion, and love. If you enjoyed this love story, please like, comment, and subscribe to see more heartfelt tales. Your support helps us continue creating the stories that make your heart race.